Hi everybody, thank you for joining me today. I'm Matthew Potter, your Community Weatherman. So as you see behind me, there's a big game coming up that we're going to be talking about today, and that is the Super Bowl between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. And the main purpose of the video is to go over a forecast discussion of what the weather will be like throughout the country on Sunday. We'll start on the large scale and then we'll zoom in on areas in particular that could be having some trouble in terms of the weather. And after that, we're going to be going into the forecast itself for those areas like in Philadelphia and Kansas City, where one of you guys is actually going to be celebrating by the night's end. And then we're also going to look at the forecast for Arizona if you're going to the game. And then lastly, I'm going to go into my actual prediction of the game itself. So let's get to it. So we're going to start our forecast off here early Sunday morning, and as you're waking up across here in the southeast U.S., we're going to have this low pressure system that's sitting on the Carolina coastline, and that's going to be providing some steady rain, especially across North Carolina and southeast Virginia. And then a little bit further off to the west, where there's just enough cold air available, we're actually going to be mixing with snow in higher elevations of Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. And then in the western United States, we're going to be dealing with clouds and spotty showers, particularly in Southern California. So to look at what's causing this activity, we're going to look at our 500 millibar map, which is overlaid with relative vorticity. And relative vorticity is basically a measure of the spin in the atmosphere. Where you have more spin, you typically are going to have some weather at the surface. Now, if we start here in the southeast United States, you'll see this broad upper level low that is going to be producing that coastal system that is going to be sitting off the Carolina coast. And then off to our west, we see another broad upper level low, which is going to be producing those clouds and the spotty showers in California. Starting off your day on Sunday, when you're waking up, most of the northern half of the country is going to be below freezing, although no one is going to be particularly that cold. Meanwhile, in the southern U.S., most areas are going to be in the mid to upper 30s and 40s, although we will have some 50s and 60s here in Florida. As we head through the day on Sunday, you'll see that we're still going to have that coastal low sitting over the Carolina coastline, and we're going to continue to see the rain, although it's now going to be extending a little bit to the north in Maryland and Delaware and also into extreme southern New Jersey. And we're also going to continue to see the snow, and it could be particularly heavy, especially over the Appalachian Mountains. And then over Southern California, we're still going to see spotty showers, especially in the San Diego area. And then as you head up into Washington State, we'll see in the northwest part, we're actually going to start to see some precipitation in the form of mainly rain and then some snow in the higher elevations in the Cascades. So looking at our temperatures on Sunday afternoon, you'll see that most of the northern half of the U.S. is going to be in the 40s, although where there is more snowpack, particularly where the snow just fell here in the Midwest, it's going to be stuck probably in the upper 30s, and especially up here in North, South Dakota, and Minnesota, where it's going to probably struggle to even get above the mid-30s. Meanwhile, down here in the Appalachian Mountains, where it's going to be snowing during the daytime, it's going to be pretty cold as well. And then in the southern part of the U.S., we're going to be basically in the 50s except for where we have precipitation falling. And then the warmest spots are going to be in the desert southwest and also into extreme southern Florida. If we go back to our surface map again and look at the weather during the game, we'll see that the precipitation associated with that low pressure system is going to start to slowly make its way to the north a little bit, maybe even providing some light rain into Philadelphia, Baltimore, even Washington, D.C. Now, thankfully, in the Appalachians, your snow is going to be winding down by this point, and then off into the western part of the U.S., we are going to be experiencing still maybe even some spotty showers in Southern California, and then once again into western Washington State and maybe even portions of Oregon. And looking at our temperatures by game's end, we'll see that much of the northern U.S. is going to start to get below freezing, while the southern portions of the United States is generally going to drop into the 40s and the 50s. So here are some impacts that we could be expecting from that coastal system across the Carolinas and Virginia. As you see, here is an excessive rainfall outlook, and there's going to be a marginal risk for some flooding in portions of North Carolina and Virginia and southern Delmarva. Now, looking at the highest probabilities for snow accumulating more than 1 inch, you'll see that the highest probabilities are going to be over the Appalachians and Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. So by game's end in the Philadelphia area, we may have to deal with some light rain in the area. And if you're going to be doing some post-game celebrations, should the Eagles win, the rain is going to unfortunately cause a threat throughout the night. So by the end of the game in the Philadelphia area, temperatures will generally be in the upper 30s, and if that light rain is falling, they will tend to hold in that mid to upper 30 range throughout the night. By game's end in the Kansas City area, generally your weather is going to be pretty quiet except for some mid to level clouds rolling by, and this will continue to be the case if you're up celebrating late. And as for temperatures, it looks like by the end of the game it's going to be around the freezing mark in Kansas City. And if you're up late throughout the night, it looks like it's going to steadily drop into the upper 20s. Now we're going to be focusing on the big game, which is located in Phoenix, Arizona, and specifically the game is going to be played at State Farm Stadium. Now, when we're looking at the temperatures for game time, it is looking fantastic. It could not get any better as we're looking at temperatures in the lower 70s. Winds are going to be a little bit gusty, maybe around 15 miles an hour out of the southwest. However, since this stadium is fairly enclosed, it should not give the players any type of trouble. Now, as we get further into the game and toward the end, temperatures are going to be dropping, and eventually they'll be dipping down into the upper 50s by the end of the game. Now that we are done with the weather forecast, it is now time to present my prediction for the Super Bowl. There are a lot of things to consider, but I think in the end, it's going to be none other than the Philadelphia Eagles that squeak out the win 30-27 over the Kansas City Chiefs. So in general, you see that much of the nation is going to be dealing with some pretty decent weather for the game, and hopefully the game itself is going to be just as nice. If you like today's video, please hit the subscribe button and like this video down below, and I'll be sure to see you soon.